Welcome to Opening the Door to the Unknown with your host, Dr. Clark Schmidt. Well, no problem. Hello, and welcome to Opening the Door, and welcome to the studios of Opening Door to the Unknown. I'm your host, Dr. Clark Schmidt. Well, 12 chapters of the first book of Opening the Door to the Unknown finished. It was a pleasure of creating to create the videos for you, for anyone who has visited my channel, and I hope that you gain a little bit of knowledge, or gain more knowledge if you already knew some of the subjects that I talked about. What I like to do is recap a little bit of each chapter that I spoke on. Um, maybe to clarify some things for you that you quite didn't understand, or maybe to help you to gain again a little bit more knowledge to use in your research of the metaphysics, the esoterics, and hermetics, and also within the realm of parapsychology as well. So I'm going to start with mystery. I'm going to start now. I'm not going to take each one right down the line. I might kind of skip around here. Okay. But the first one I'd like to again talk about just real quick is on mystery schools. Again, as I mentioned, is that mystery schools did start or come about thousands of years ago in Egypt, Mesopotamia, China, Greece, Rome, Babylon, and soon afterwards by the initiates that were in the inner sanctum went out and created more of mystery schools, as to bring in new neophytes in as to learn to get the word out. All right, and that's what Jesus did. Is that he became a neophyte and then an initiate after 12 years, and he went out and he became the prophet or the messenger. And what was his message? And what was his message on life after death? How to reach the Creator when you passed over, and through his parables, he was trying to tell the multitude of people that came and listened to him. Um, Even though sometimes he got a little in depth with his type of philosophy, but that was the idea. You just don't, it's like you show a person how to fish, as they say, okay, by showing them how to string the hook and what to use for bait and how to get out there as to begin catching the fish. And once that person was taught how to fish, then all of a sudden he could survive. He could survive. Especially when it came to hunger, for an example. You had Aristotle, and you had Aristotle who talked about metaphysics, philosophy, on heavy philosophy of, which I felt is that a lot of people, a lot of listeners really couldn't understand until other philosophers started to tone it down, a little bit. And of course, you had the you had the Egyptians with Hermes, with Hermeticism, again on natural healings, on energy systems of the body, of on colors, and again, and also on reincarnation and life after death. Today is that I feel is that there's only a few of the mystery schools still in existence, and you can find them and you can find them on the web. Theosophy, with through the creation of Madam Helen Blavatsky. You have the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and also the OTO and the Centurions, a German mystery school. Again, is that with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and with the OTO, anybody can join as long as they have the will to do so, and also have the devotion, dedication, the diligence, and the determination to learn and understand just what that particular mystery school is about, especially like in magic. And we're not talking about the stage magicians. All right? Let's see here. So that wraps our show. So that should really wrap up on mystery school thought. And I hope that you have learned a little bit on what mystery schools entail. What mystery schools entailed. Reincarnation. I always like to talk about that one because, and the reason why I'm bringing this one up this quick is because of chapter 12, and I did miss a few things of what I really wanted to talk about on reincarnation. I did give technique on how to experience a past life, but I really didn't get into the philosophy of, for an example, of reincarnation. Now, how did reincarnation come about, especially in the United States? Well, let's go back thousands of years again to Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, Rome, China, Babylon, and each of those societies, even India. I forgot about India. So each of those societies believed is that if you wanted to come back, is that you had a chance to exactly do that. The only difference is with Indian belief system of reincarnation is that if a person had bad karma when they passed over and they came back, is that you came back as an animal, an ox, for an example, a cow, or a bird, and the higher in the chain is that quicker that you could shake off that negative, that that negative acts that were committed while you were residing on this plane of existence, so that when you passed over when the cow or the bird or the um, ox passed on, is that that spirit of the human would not come back again, is that they would be over on the other side. Okay, would be like no more moving. You find a place that you like, and that's where you're going to be until they take you out feet first. All right. Um, so, whereas whereas in our Western society, is that a person who believes in reincarnation will definitely come back and take care of whatever karma that has to be released, that when you pass over again that you don't want to come back. Okay, and as to climb up the, again, I always like to use the ladder, is to climb up the rungs. Okay, because you don't have that extra extra baggage. The four people that I have respect for, especially on the subject of reincarnation, was Edgar Casey, who was classified as the sleeping prophet, Raymond Moody, a psychiatrist, psychologist, Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist, and Dr. Joe Slate, a psychologist, who have written books on the subject of reincarnation. And I feel is that the books that especially like all four of them wrote are very in depth, very detailed, very detailed. In fact, you could go to Raymond Moody's website, check it out. You could probably go to Brian Weiss's website if he has one and check it out, which I think that he does. And also with Dr. Joe Slate, I forget if Dr. Slate has a website, but I met Moody, Weiss, and I had a lot of I worked with Dr. Joe Slate for a long time. In fact, when I had my radio show, actually he was my first guest interview, and he's a very knowledgeable person to talk to. So anyway, so like I said, if you want to go on to each of the websites that I mentioned, do so. Like I said, is that I think that you'll find each one very interesting. Again, how did we come into reincarnation? I think by two people. One was by Edgar Casey when he was in his trance state, when he was going to the Ashkeck Records, and also with another doctor. I just quite don't remember the name, but I do remember was back in the early 50s that hypnotized a young woman, and he regressed her, and she was remembered her name as Brody Murphy, who was a washerwoman back in Ireland. And this is where, after the newspapers wrote up the article about this happening, is that all of a sudden is like a lot of people were, oh wow, a past life, reincarnation, my God, I want to know who I am. Who was I back in a past life, and so it hit, like wildfire, just like when the Fox sisters, did the rappings up in Hinesville, New York in 1848, is that all of a sudden, boom, what happened is that you had people start to create um, spiritualist camps and became mediums, not only over here in the United States, but also across the pond in England. So it just takes one thing, all right? It just takes one thing, just like with UFOs going back to 47 in Roswell, for an example, which I'll be talking about later on in book 2. So I really don't want to get into that right as of right now. But I do want to show, which I should have, like I said, which I didn't really get into detail, but I have 3 tarot cards here. Okay, I have here, see, I got 1, 2, 3. Okay, you see, like 1, 2, 3. And the tarot cards that I picked out are very interesting. Remember, I told you is that, like the Chinese believe is that a picture says 1,000 words. Well, tarot cards are the same for the expression. A picture says 1,000 words. Now, I have taken, like I said, the 3 cards, and the first card that I have taken out is the Fool. Okay? Now, a lot of people classify the Fool as somebody that is haphazard in what they do. Okay? It could be in work, for gardening, or it could be walking, down a path, and you're not really paying attention because you're on your cell phone, or you're driving, and again, you're not paying attention to the traffic that's on the side of you, or in front of you, or in back of you, and again, you're on your cell phone. So this is the Fool. But the Fool can also represent what a person did during a lifetime. And you might say even a past life. Okay? Again, going into karma. Okay? Why did you do the things that you did, that you had to come back to get rid of that negativity? Because I was a damn fool to do it. Okay, so that's the first card. The second card is on the Wheel of Fortune. Now, the Wheel of Fortune, a psychic will, a tarot reader will give and say, well, you got the Wheel of Fortune with 6 or 7 other cards, and the wheel spins, and where it lands on, it could be on marriage, it could be on work related, with work related, moving, money situation, whatever. But here again, if we're looking through reincarnation, I would have to say that the Wheel of Fortune is the fortune of what you did, because if you have like these 2 cards, okay, the Wheel of Fortune and the Fool, now that actually tells me that has been spread down for a tarot reading, is that you were the Fool. And here you have the Wheel of Fortune, and whatever you did now, in the life that you're living now, or going to a past life, is that you're the one that created those situations that has caused you to have a reincarnation again to get rid of that karma. Okay, the third card that I picked again for under reincarnation is the judgment card. Now the judgment card again, if you're having a tarot reading by a tarot reader, would probably say is, well, you just can't judge by by the by the actions that you are taking at this particular time. You know, either with work, marriage, money, travel, buying things. You know, like how's your life doing now? You know, is your life doing good or is it doing bad? But again, if you have now if the judgment card, well, I'm having a little problem here. Kind of slippery. Haven't used these cards for a long time. If you have if you have judgment, the fool, and the wheel of fortune. All right, now you can give almost a complete past life reading to your client, even though you got maybe 3 or 4 other cards down on the table that reinforces these three cards here. Okay, so like anytime that you ever have a tarot reading by a psychic, and these 3 cards come out with other cards, okay, it represents again past life type of experience, and these 3 cards are telling you how to get rid of that particular karma or that extra baggage, you might say. Okay, so it's like they crop up to help. Okay. Oop, there we go. Okay. So I just wanted to, that's what I wanted to finish out on for reincarnation. Now, getting into spiritism or talking to spirit again with Spirit Box is that again, everybody has an application. It can either be again the afterlight box or the infinity box, or if you bought like I did, duh, um, um, the I got the Huff Paranormal with the SCD-1 or with the Flux Ghost box, is that everybody now is talking to spirits. Fine and dandy. I think is that they like that. I think that that by talking to spirits is that you do get some answers by questions that are asked, which is pertinent with you. Oh, okay. And you do, and again, I do feel that you do learn, is that spirit is there, to help. Because a lot of them are your guides, teachers, and master teachers. And because they are your guides, teachers, and master teachers, that's what they do, is to guide you, as to teach you, okay? But you have to listen to them. Okay, you do have to listen to them because, again, they're giving you information that you're supposed to know, at that particular time. Now, on the other hand, is that if they don't want to tell you something, they will confer among themselves collaborate, confer, agree to disagree on a particular question that you like to have answered. And if they feel it's not time for you to know the answer to that particular question, they won't give it to you because they did confer with one another. And again, if you ask them a particular question and they come up with an answer, boom, like that, then they want you to know the answer. So don't think that they're ignoring you. They're just saying is, well, by the conference that we had is that it's not the right time. Maybe you need some to continue to grow in what you're learning. And when we feel it's time to answer that question again, is that growth, the knowledge um, is enough that you will begin to understand the answer to that particular question. Okay. So if you hear them whispering among themselves, they're either going to give me the answer that I'm seeking, or they're going to say, "Forget it. It's not time. It's not time for you yet to know and to understand the answer that we're going to give." Okay. There was a question. All right, there was a question that I happened to see on one of the paranormal channels, especially on spirit communication, is that if you call a spirit out of the light, is it hard for that spirit to move back into the light? Well, again, if you go to my introduction, I give you a whole explanation again on the white light. Okay, so I'm just going to say real quick is that the white light is only to illuminate. Nobody's spirit does not live in white light. So white light is not an elevator to move them up into, to heaven. Okay, it's just, it's like when your house is dark, it's dark. When you turn on a light and it gets rid of the dark and illuminates to where you can see. All right. I think that I mentioned is about the abyss. The abyss means blackness. And sometimes when we pass over, is that we're going to go through the abyss as to get ourselves situated in our new life after life, you might say. It's just like if a person moves, even though they know where they're moving to, it's like you're still moving through the abyss because you have sold your home and you're packing up, and now it's time to move on as to move into your new digs. Okay, so that's going through the abyss, going from house, traveling to get into your new home. Okay, so the light or the blackness or residing in the abyss does not last. Okay, even though even though we're in spirit form, we do not have time as what we know about time. We don't have watches, or we do not have watches to look at and say as well, gee, the time right now is 25. Yeah, is 25 to 8. Okay, so over there, time is non-existent. Okay, so what we might think of as a minute over here might be a century over there. That's the reason why we say is that death is eternal. Because again, there is no time. Why do you need time? You're spirit. Okay? So, I hope that answered the question by the person that asked. Can if you move spirit out of the light, can you move them back in? Of course, because like I said, the light is only illumination. They don't live in the light. Okay. All right, spirit. So I hope that takes care of on contacting spirits. Let's see here. I'm trying to think real quick. What else did I talk about? Let's see. Trying to think here. Let's see. There was 12 of them, right? Reincarnation. Just give me a second. I'm trying to. Like I said, I kind of changed. I just kind of moved around here. So if you just give me a minute, I'm trying to think. If anything else needs to be clarified on the subjects that I talked about. I think that I talked about on three chapters was on spirit communication. Meditation, again, I think is self-explanatory. Again, how to get yourself into meditation. Got it. Energies. Energy systems of the body. I did mention about the different energies and what they consisted of, especially like the aura, with the chakras, with the chords, with the alpha, with the alpha psychic and the beta healing energies. And let me get into healing energies for just a moment. Okay, is that there has been studies done on healing energies and science, and the studies that have been done was on healing and cancer, especially on natural healing. And they have found out is that through the healing energies, especially like a psychic healer, for an example, is that especially with cancer cells, is that the psychic healer can actually take his or her energies and transmute into the person that they're giving the healing, especially if the person has cancer, as to build up the immune system, as to the T cells to attack and destroy cancer cells. Also, with the psychic, healing energies, again is working with the person's energies that has cancer, is that you build up the energies as well, not just with the immune system, but also with the healing energies as well, and also they attack the cancer cells, which will give the doctor a little bit more leeway to work with chemo, and hopefully not with radiation. Okay, so like I said, is that scientists have been experimenting. Now you're not going to hear anything on that. You're not going to find, at least I don't think. Now, if somebody does happen to find it on the net, more power. But I really don't think that they have have discussed have discussed that. I do remember going back, years ago, back in the late seventies, with Drew Pearson, with Dirk Pearson, and Linus Pauling were doing experiments with heavy mega doses of vitamin C and cancer, and they found out by giving complete mega doses, I'm talking about heavy duty mega doses of vitamin C, is that the vitamin C does destroy cancer cells. Well, they did the experiments, they wrote up papers, and they sent it to the medical community, and everybody thought that Pearson and Pauling were, until they both got some of the community to do research, and I think it was either at Harvard or Berkeley, is that some doctors decided, okay, we're going to do the experiments. Well, Pauling told the doctors, especially the oncologists, how what the procedure was in working with vitamin C with the cancer patient. Now, we're not talking about like brain cancer, okay, but we're talking about like if you had cancer of the liver, of the lung, of the pancreas, testicular, testicular cancer, whatever, is what the procedure was, and how many units of liquid vitamin C to give an intravenous for. Well, so the scientists or the doctor said, okay, Linus, whatever you say. So he started to follow the procedures for a little while, but here was the kick-ass, is that the scientists did what scientists do. They added, and what did they add? They added the chemicals for chemotherapy. So now what they were doing is they were shooting in the vitamin C, and also at the same time they were giving chemo to the cancer patient. And after 3 months, they wrote papers and said, Linus Pauling is full of shit, and vitamin C doesn't do a goddamn thing. Well, Pauling, wanted to find out, and he found out what the procedure was until, and he was looking, and then all of a sudden it was like chemo. God, did he blow his stack? Okay, but this is how science works. So this is the reason why I don't think is that you're going to find really anything on psychic healers helping cancer patients survive particular types of cancer, because of the way that the scientists screw up everything. Okay, but like I said, it's just like with reflexology, for an example, or even with Chinese acupuncture. They're finding, they found out, again, this goes back into the early 80s, with especially when some Chinese doctors came over to the United States and were giving acupuncture and working with acupressure. They found out. Okay, so science is damn slow in research. They are damn slow in research, and so this is the reason why you have, again, in the scientific community, with the skeptics, like with Pauling, with Pauling and Dirk Pearson, with working with vitamin C, Again, working with psychic energy, working with psychic healing energies. Okay, now again, working with psychic healing energies, there's one technique. What I call is long distance. Uh, is Well, before I mention that, a question I read is, can anybody be a psychic healer? Yes. Um, Number one, you would have to open yourself up to becoming a psychic. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're clairaudient, clairvoyant, or clairsentient. Okay, it's like, um, how should I say? You can open yourself up to one, but I would say the one that should really be opened is being the clairsentient, to feel, okay, to feel the aura, to feel the feel the chakras, to feel the chords, okay, and once you learn how to open up your ability of being clairsentient, is when you can also begin to learn how to become a psychic healer, using, again, drawing from the psychic beta psychic healing energies. Okay, all right. So what I do for long distance, when I call long distance healing, is that the person will tell me is they got headaches, or they got pains in the back, or whatever. And what I do is that I draw a picture of that person, and then I would draw in my psych, and then what I would do is draw in those psychic healing energies, and I will, say the person has a headache, so after you draw an outline of the person, is that you take those psychic energies, and you place your hand or the palm not touching the head, but where the head would be from your outline that you've drawn of that person, and boom, and you can send out those energies. Or say if they have like arthritis in the shoulder, right or left shoulder, or even both shoulders, boom, boom. For stomach, same thing, boom. For the back, you just turn the outline reverse to where you hit the back. So yes, and you find out by doing that is that the person feels a hell of a lot better, and they will actually feel that healing actually taking place. Now, is it like somebody who's a high priest or high priestess in voodoo, where they take where they make the doll, and they want to stick the pins in. Um, it works on the same principle. Okay, it actually works on the same principle, but in voodoo, one really has to believe is that they have created somebody, taking a piece of that person, like a hair or a piece of clothing or fingernail or whatever, and do the mumble jumble, then taking and sticking it in, and the person who's being attacked with the pins will actually believe that they are being attacked. It's more psychological in that sense. It's just like if what I used to do, which was a lot of fun, is walk down Wisconsin Avenue in Milwaukee, and when I was going to university, and I would just, before I crossed the street, is that I would look up and go point, just start to point up, like look up and point up, and not even move. And all of a sudden, you would have people, continue, walking across the street or whatever, or I'll stop waiting for the light to change, and all of a sudden they would start doing this. And before long, you would have a whole bunch of people, like, going, pointing and looking up. They don't know what the hell they were seeing, but but whatever it was, they were pointing right at it, and that is a lot of fun. Um, but it's psychological. Where again is that with psychic healings, it's not psychological. It's more physical. Okay. Again, I think I mentioned about colors like greens, purples, reds, blue. Okay, is that they have their own? Is that colors have their own vibration? Has their own vibrational rate, which they do. So why do you, when you wake up in the morning, and you do your thing, and you take your shower, and you get dressed. Why did you pick out that purple blouse, or that blue shirt, or why did you put on red underwear, or blue underwear, or even white underwear? There was a reason. Okay, there was a reason for that. Uh, Maybe, and and don't laugh, but maybe is that a woman who has put on a red bra and red underwear, is that there might be some guy she likes at work, so she is going to wear red, which is classified as romance, classified as, hey, I want you to look at me sexually, um, and so um, she's at the office, and all of a sudden the guy passes by, and all of a sudden, boom, he turns around and he starts a conversation. Well, it's not because of the blouse that she's wearing, or the pants or the skirt. It's because of wearing what's underneath. So colors do have their own vibration. Say, for an example, with the color blue. Color blue is a soothing type of color, like pink is. All right. So if you are near a lake and you get angry for some reason, what do? You go down to the lake and you sit on the pier and you look down and you watch the sunset. And it's not actually the sunset that you're watching. It's actually because with the shimmering of the sun, the shimmering of the light from the sun on the blue water, and watching the blue water is that calming effect. It's like you wear white. Well, the reason why you wear white is because you want to repel negativity. Maybe there's a couple of people in the office situation to where you just feel that they're negative, and you don't want that negativity. You become that magnet and draw in from those people to where you feel like crap the rest of the day. So you wear white. So it can be like white underclothing, and maybe a white, a blouse, or whatever. And for guys, it's the same thing. The tidy whities, the white T-shirt, and maybe maybe white socks or a white shirt, and you decide to wear that for your clothing of the day. So there's reasons for it. So you are being drawn. You are being drawn to your closet as to pick out the clothing that you're actually going to wear. So again, that's working with energies. So I hope that clarifies. If you had any questions in your mind, even though you didn't write anything down, as to ask. Okay, which is all right. Okay. question. Somebody asked me not too long ago, um, do you read any of this stuff that you talk about when you create, or when you create your videos? Before you create, you get on the net. No, I do not do any research. Okay, this is information that I learned 58 years ago. Okay, and the information that I have obtained and maintained up in the noggin hasn't really changed. Oh yes, medicine has changed somewhat, not by much. Psychology has changed, not by much. Metaphysics in the sense with magic or with spirits. Well, the spirits, communicating with spirits has changed quite considerably since going back to Egypt and Greece, has changed a little bit because we got now means. We got means how to communicate. It's just not going with meditation, getting into a mediumistic trance as being as becoming a mental or physical medium. So that has changed. So yeah, a few things have changed, but not really. And what else has really changed, again, is I think that I mentioned is getting into back in the late 80s, early 90s is New Age revival. What was called was the New Age. Well, you see, there was no New Age. It was old age, metaphysics, esoterics, hermeticism just reestablishing itself. Okay, now could you say, is that because of with the Beatles going with transcendental meditation? Could it be Shirley MacLaine writing all those books, or Sylvia Brown, who now we know was a fake, fraud, and phony, writing all those books, or Elizabeth Clare Prophet writing all those books, or was it I'm trying to think of her name, Jane. Tell you in a minute. I can't remember her last name. Jane Roberts, with who communicated with the Seth materials going back into the early and late 70s, or was it because going back with Roswell with UFOs? And all of a sudden, is that people back in the early 90s were talking about having having abductions and communications with. But again, I'm not going to talk about that until I actually get into book 2. So it was like, again with reincarnation, people becoming how to become psychic, how to communicate with spirit. Okay, so working with crystals. So it was a renewal of the old age. And everybody, like Jimmy Durante used to say, is everybody wants to get into the act. And that was true when the New Age actually really exploded back in the early 90s. Is that I never saw so many metaphysical shops open themselves up on a street corner. It was like a place when I lived in Milwaukee called Bradley, to where it was just one street, like down in New Orleans on Bourbon, It had bars on both sides. You could walk down one side of the sidewalk and hit every bar, cross the street, then start to move up this way to go to every bar. What was this like new? It was this like new age shops being created, backroom study courses for whatever. And that used to really, and I hate to say it, that used to really piss me off. I just wanted to strangle people because everybody thought that they knew, experts in what they were teaching, and they didn't know a damn thing. They just wanted to be in on the act. The money. The money. Okay? Now, I'm not saying is that our society is not I'm trying to think of the word. For economics, for the money. Of course, everybody likes to have money as to survive. But when we're talking about fakes, fraud, when I'm talking about fakes, fraud, and phonies, then yeah, that really pisses me off. Okay. So somebody said, well, you're just the same as everybody else because you got a shop and also you created a school. Yes, that's true. But I was never in it for the money. I wanted to really teach people who are really wanting to become dedicated, devotion, diligence, and having determination to actually learn the metaphysics, the hermetics, the esoterics, and not some stoop that went into that said is that I'm an expert in, say, in Christology for an example. Well, I met an expert in Christology from the Graves Museum in Hollywood, Florida, and his name was Chris Borg, and he was the best Christologist in the United States, and he was also a metaphysician, and he also was an esotericist, and also knew hermetics, and he taught me. Believe it or not. And what did he teach me? He taught me on Christology. So it wasn't just somebody that that picked up a crystal in a shop for an example, and touched it, handled it, and played around with it, and then came on and said, "Well, I'm an expert in crystals." Well, bunk, BS. And I used to call people out on their so-called expertise in certain fields. I did it all the time. In fact, I used to have people that wanted to come in and do teaching at the school, and I say, "Well, what's your qualifications?" And tell me something I don't. I said, "As in, tell me something I actually don't know." And they couldn't, because I would call them out on it. Capitalism with us in this country. Okay, you see how my mind works. So that's what used to piss me off, is to have all these people come in. Okay, and that's what it was. It was like everybody wanted to come into the act. You had J.D. Knight who said is that she was being contacted by Rathma, a 5,000-year-old whatever. Again, you had Sylvia Brown, who was a complete fake. You had Elizabeth Clare Prophet, who was a complete fake. You had movie stars that started to get into the act, like I said. That wrote books. I mean, So there's a lot of fake, fraud, and phonies, and I think today, okay, and I really think today is that is that it kind of settled down. Besides two things, okay, working with applications of how to contact spirit and also ghost hunting. Or and ghost hunting or ghost research. I mean, you had Hans Holzer, um, um, Peter. You had Hans Holzer, one of the best parapsychologists in the United States. You had Peter. I'm trying to think of the gentleman over in England. Underwood. Peter Underwood, who wrote over 40 books on the subject, of hauntings in England. He resides in California that I had a chance to talk to. Um, Richard Sennett, again, who has written many books on hauntings in California and around the United States. Um, just a few more that I've had dealings with throughout the years. Let's see, especially in let me think of one or two more here. Oh, give me a minute. Oh, I got her book in. See, sometimes I can't remember names, but I got the books, and I think is that I had dealings with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Is that who I've had dealings with as well? And she's a parapsychologist, and a very good one, in fact. So she's been around for a few years. And so you do have, again, just like Raymond Moody, Joe Slate, Brian Weiss, again, Edgar Casey, is that these were all the top-notch people in their field of study, and you couldn't bullshit them, okay? You couldn't, because, say for an example, is that Dr. Joe Slate does not like BSers. Okay, he is a factual person that likes to talk. I mean, because he knows the subject. And if you don't know the subject, questions are all right. But if you try to BS him, guess what? He'll, as far as I remember, is that he won't. You couldn't contact him again. You would have to go through his booking agent. Okay, but this is what the New Age has produced. Again, people, because of going back to Roswell, is that people were starting to communicate with the Palladians, the Arcturians, and other beings. But again, I will be discussing that in book 2, which will be coming up shortly. Okay. So anyways, my producer is giving me the high sign here. Then it's time to close out this final chapter, you might say, of book 1 of Opening the Door to the Unknown. And I hope that you enjoyed reviewing the chapters, and I do hope that you come back and recommend to your friends and subscribers about my channel. And I will be talking to you soon. Oh, before I go, is that I kept saying every once in a while in some of my chapters is that I'm going to start to have some interviews. Yes, October the 1st is that Dr. Donna Harris from Kent, England will be sitting in the studio here for a day, and we will be discussing um, her experiences as being a medium, and she's funny, um, and I feel very talented, and I can truthfully say she is a great she is a great friend of mine. So that's October the 1st. I'll be creating a video. I wish that I could have um, call-ins. I'm still trying to maybe figure that out with Skype, and maybe by that time within the next month it might happen. You never know. But anyways, October the 1st is that Dr. Donna Harris will be here, and it's going to be fun. Going to have a good. It's going to be a good time with her. Okay. So like I said, be expecting be expecting book 2 on opening the door to the unknown, and it's going to be strictly on, guess what, UFOs. So I hope that again you come. I hope again is that you come back, and if you like what you are seeing, is that you subscribe if you like to. It's not a necessity, and to tell your subscribers about the channel as well. So until I get into the introduction of book 2 of Opening the Door to the Unknown, have a great day. This has been a production of Opening the Door to the Unknown in association with Dr. Clark Schmidt. Copyright 2016.